Now that we're recording, I can officially welcome everybody to our Zoom variety class. So, welcome, welcome, welcome. Thanks for being here. And if we have anybody that's here for the first time, give an extra special welcome to you. We had our Conductor Magic class earlier today that I taught, and we had a brand new person that was on there, at least one. So that's always fun. We do have our class tomorrow as well, our Thursday variety class, and then we have a very special guest doing our Zoom musical. But I'll save that announcement for the end so you can wait and wonder. So I'm happy to be teaching again. I'm coming to you today from our Sun City Center, Florida location. I saw somebody type in the chat, Lee Carter said, 112 degrees in Sun City, Arizona. So it's not quite that hot here today, but it feels like it sometimes. Anyway, like I said, I'm very happy to be back teaching you guys again. What I wanted to do today, I'm assuming most of you have attended my classes that I've taught here online so far over the last I don't know, I guess 2 months or 3 months that we've been doing this. It's funny how the time has gone by so fast. I can't believe we're already a week into July. But it's been just a blast for us to be able to teach these things and do the concerts and stuff. And I've talked about, different parts of your band, different parts of your music style, I think was the first one that I did. And I did some top 10 tips and tricks and stuff. But what I wanted to do today is kind of a deep dive, a really deep exploration of our melody sounds. Okay, I think that's arguably either, you could make a case either the music style or the melody sound is going to be the most important thing as a hobby musician, because those are the two main parts of your experience, right? What style of music did I use and what is my melody sound? And I think that a lot of people have a pretty good idea about how to use their melody sounds, but hopefully there's going to be a lot of new information for you today. I am going to be using a sheet, which I'll pull up here so you can see just for a second, and of course this will be sent out to you. Robert sends these out every week, but it looks like this, Exploring Melody Sounds. And we're going to talk about 4 main groups of sounds today. We're going to talk about your general setups, your style setups, your category setups, and your bank setups. Now, for the purposes of today's class, I'm just going to call them setups, even though I'm going to be doing the class today on the Lowrey Legend. Technically, on this instrument, they're called presets. Okay, so just know that if I use the term setups, it's the same thing as presets. So if you have an instrument that says category presets, like the one I'm on today, just know that's the same thing as category setups. Robert actually gave kind of a talk about this, I think it was yesterday, on one of the classes about how they changed the term from preset to setup. So just know that. Preset, setup, same thing, but I'm going to call them setups for the purpose of today's class. So I'm going to get my other camera angle going here. And hopefully you can see the instrument pretty clearly. So like I said, I'm on the Lowrey Legend today. And in our classroom here, we actually have a nice big screen TV. So at some point, I'm actually going to show you some stuff on our TV there, which is actually the same view that I have in my big window. So when I show you that in a little bit, just know that that's the same view that I can see on my screen there. So whatever I show you on the TV is the same thing that I can see in here. So I'm going to get right into it. So I'm going to pop up the worksheet here. Again, this is going to be sent out to you, so feel free to take some notes if you like, but just know that you'll get this exact sheet sent out in your email later this week. So when you turn your instrument on, let's just say I just turned the instrument on from scratch. I haven't touched anything, haven't set anything up. In fact, just for fun, I'll actually reset it here for us. Okay. When I first turn it on, no matter what instrument you have, it could be an Easy One, could be a Legend, could be an Aria, it's going to come on with some sound. Now, I believe they called this the power-up sound, and it could be different on different instruments. If you have an instrument that looks more like this, like a big window instrument, okay, something like this, chances are it's going to pop up with an organ sound. Something that sounds kind of like that, and on your lower keyboard will be another organ sound. And I guess they're thinking, if someone played traditional organ or something, you can play some nice stuff, and it's a pretty sound. Okay, so pretty nice little organ sound there. If you have an easy instrument, it's going to pop up with a piano sound. Okay, but whatever it is, whatever your first sound is there, they usually refer to that as your power-up sound or power-on sound. It's usually going to be either organ or piano. On some of the easy instruments, it's actually a combination of piano and strings. So that's just kind of a nice thing to know, that when you turn your instrument on, you know that you get a good sound right out of the gate. But we're going to get right into the general setups. So general setups, I'll pop back my worksheet here so you can see this. It's just a nice variety of some of the popular melody sounds. And I guess I should say, in case we have any beginners on here, just so we are all on the same page, melody sound is the part of the song that you would sing. That's the melody. So your sound is going to be whatever you're playing in the right hand is going to be your melody sound. Okay. So general setups or general presets, variety of some of the most popular melody sounds. Now, most of the instruments that you're familiar with, if you followed the LC line, the SU, the A, they would have the same 1 through 10 general presets or general setups. So on number 1, you'd have a nice organ. On number 2, you'd have a pipe organ, right? That one's kind of cool. 3, you'd have a theater organ. 4 would be strings, etc. All the way through, you have really good sounds in there. And those were the same on most all of the instruments. Okay, so if you have a big window instrument, it's almost 100% sure that you're going to have those same sounds, whether you have a Legend, a Stardust, a Prestige, a Symphony, a Liberty. All those instruments had the same general setups. Okay, and these can be used with or without a music style. So when I just turned on the instrument, or when you're at home, if you turn on yours and you don't touch anything else, but you touch your numbers in the middle, okay? So I'm going to put back my screen here so you can see this. So let's pretend I just turned it on, and we don't even have to pretend because I just did. I just reset it. And then I touch any of the numbers, 1 through 10, okay? I'm going to have my 10 general setups. Okay, so on number 10, it's called Mellow Big Band. All right, nice Glenn Miller sound. Number 9 is my jazz organ. I'm kind of partial to that one. I like the jazz organ, but we'll talk more about that later. And those are going to be the same on many of the instruments. Now, on the E-series instruments, some of yours will be different, and that's okay. It just means that you have a different set of these general setups, but it's the same idea. When you first turn on your instrument and you touch any of your numbers in the middle, those are going to be your general setups. Okay, I don't know if I can minimize this here. There we go. So you can see there, I said, well, many instruments do have those same general setups. Some, in the E-series in particular, will have different sounds. So if you have, let's say, an Easy 10 or a Fanfare or a Journey, your power-up sounds or your general setups may very well be different than the ones on this Legend, and that's okay. Okay, not all of them are exactly identical. They're all great. Doesn't matter which ones you have, but again, that's if you just turn on your instrument, you don't touch anything else, but you go to one of your numbers in the middle, that's going to be your general setups. Okay, and the reason I mention that is because a lot of times people will turn on their instruments and they say, "Well, I'm trying to get my style setup on, and it's not the right one." Or I'm trying to do X, Y, and Z, and it doesn't seem to be the right sound. Well, if you haven't selected anything else yet, but you do touch one of your numbers, that's going to be your general setups. Okay? And there is a formula. I mentioned some of them. You got organs on the first 3, strings on number 4. You got the chimes on number 5. You got an open harmony organ on number 6. Really nice choir, actually. Let me play a little bit of this choir on number 7. Isn't that pretty? Very nice choir sound. 8 is piano and strings. 9 is that jazz organ, and 10 is that mellow big band, which is really like the Glenn Miller sound. They can't call it Glenn Miller, I guess, on that one, but those are the 10 that many people will be familiar with. If that's not on yours, again, that you might have an E series that has different sounds, or they might be some of the same sounds but on different numbers, and that's fine. All right, looks like we have a question from Marcia. Let me unmute you there, Marcia. What's your question?
Oh, can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Okay. I have an easy four. I don't see anything that resembles numbers on here, so I'm a little confused.
Yes, on the Easy 4, you're not going to have the numbers in the middle, but I will get to stuff that's on the Easy 1, 2, 3, and 4 as well today.
Okay, thank you.
But yes, that's a good point though. On some of the instruments, you don't actually have the numbers in the middle, and we'll talk about some different ways to access those sounds. Okay, but just a quick Cliff's Notes version is on the right side of your instrument on the Easy line. You're going to have the capability to change to some of those same sounds that I just used, like a choir or strings or whatever you like. Okay, but I will come back to that in a little bit.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Alrighty. Does anybody else have any questions about the general setups? I don't see any other hands there. All right, I'm going to go back to my worksheet here, and let's go to the style setups. Okay, because this one tends to be confusing, even though on the surface it's actually pretty simple. There are some things that are kind of built in. Now, I know Robert has talked about this a couple of times in his variety classes, and I think it's been mentioned by probably me or some of the other folks too. So I'm not going to go over the actual formula for the style setups or the rhythm presets because they do all follow kind of the same thing, because I think that's already been mentioned enough. But what's important is that the style setups or rhythm presets, depending on what instrument you have, are going to be a group of melody sounds that are based on whatever music style you pick. Because of that, because it depends on the music style, it can only be used with a music style. That's an important point. So what that means is that if you have not selected a music style, you will not get style setups or rhythm presets. Okay? Now, the number of those that you get, I will get into in a minute, but that's a really important point. You can't use style setups or rhythm presets unless you have a style. Now, if there's anybody super technical out there, yes, technically there are one or two workarounds where you kind of can, but let's just go with, and for most people's playing purposes, you have to have a style turned on to use those. Okay? And I wrote here, this is the easiest way to sound good without pushing too many buttons. And let me show you what I mean by that. Okay, now I'm still on my general presets right now, general setups. As soon as I touch any music style, okay, I was playing a Latin song earlier, so put on Latin. Immediately, without touching anything else except that one style button, all of my numbers in the middle have now turned into Latin instruments. 1 through 10, or 0 through 10 technically. If I go to Hawaiian, now without touching anything else, all of my buttons are representing Hawaiian instruments. If I go to, March, now I have the whole marching band in there. It's so cool. You don't have to, sometimes you see the Lowry artists or concert artists come up and they go, and they're pushing all these buttons, and you think, man, I could never do all that. I'm worried about just playing the notes, playing the chords. So this is the easiest way to sound good. And what I mean by that is that somebody or a group of somebodies sat down and put all these sounds in there just for you so that you don't have to think about it. You don't have to touch all these buttons over here. Okay? So if you have an easy 1, 2, 3, 4, or if you have an SE 1, 2, or 5 in that line, you're going to have one rhythm preset or style setup. Okay? And what that means is no matter what style you touch, even though you don't have the numbers in the middle, you have a button that says style setup. So that's going to give you one really good sound on the easy 1, 2, and 3 in any one keyboard instrument for that music style. Now, on an easy 4, Someone mentioned that they had an Easy 4. You actually get 2 melody sounds because you have 2 keyboards. So even though you have the one style setup, when you touch a style, it's going to give you 2 sounds. So for Latin, for example, it's going to give you the ones that you heard me playing before. Vibes on top, and then guitar on the bottom. I love that guitar sound, that Spanish guitar. It's beautiful. Okay, now as you go up the line, if you go to an Easy 10, that's when you start having the numbers in the middle. So 1 through 5 represent an additional 5 setups, which, again, if you have 2 keyboards, if you do the math, that's 10 sounds, right? So if you have like a fanfare or something, you might have 1 through 8. Okay, Journey is another example. I just did a showcase on the Journey yesterday. It's another really nice instrument that has 1 through 8. And then the most you would have on the top of the line instruments are 1 through 10. And again, for style setup, that means that you're going to have this setup 0. Okay, we'll talk more about that in a second. Plus 1 through 10, so you get 11 setups per style, meaning you get 22 sounds per style just by the touch of one button. All you have to do is just turn on the style, right? If I just turn the instrument on and I say, you know what, I want to play a march today. I touch march, immediately I have all those at my disposal. Very, very cool, because they took all the guesswork out of it. It used to be, if anybody remembers the instruments before these nice display screens, it just had a keypad with numbers on it. And if you wanted to play, let's say I wanted to play trumpet, I'd have to know, okay, well, trumpet is number 037. I'm making that up. That's probably not what it is. Okay. And if you wanted to play cello, you might have to go, okay, that's number 192. You just never know. You have to look everything up. Well, those days are no more. Now they already programmed everything in for you. Okay, so all you have to do is select the number that you like. Maybe you like number 1, maybe you like number 8, and then you can start playing your song from there. Okay, now if you have a screen, I'm going to pop up. Hopefully you can see this on the TV. I know there's a little bit of a glare there. But if you have one of the instruments that has a display window like that, oops, sorry, my camera doesn't want to hold here. Sorry, 1 second, guys. The camera's falling apart here. Yeah. There we go. It didn't want to show you the screen, but I made it. So, if you have a big window instrument, you can actually put your active preset display. Hopefully you can see that there. And it'll tell you, in this case I have the numbers 1 through 10, or 0 through 10, and it'll show you right on the screen there. So if I look at that, these are all of my rhythm presets or style setups, and I can say, okay, well, if I wanted trumpet, I have trumpet right there, number 6. If I want strings, in this case it's strings and bells, number 4. Okay, so all of your stuff is on display there. Now, here's something that maybe you guys didn't know. I wanted to try to hit you with some new information today. When you look at your style setup button, this is true on every single instrument. Okay, style setup or rhythm preset, depending on what you have. Your style setup or rhythm preset button can be in 3 different modes. It can be in off, on, or standby. Okay, and this is important because I can't tell you how many times I've heard over the years my rhythm preset button's not working, or it's on, it says it's on, but it's orange. Why is it orange instead of red? Okay, so this is why. If it's off, this is the easy one, right? If it's off, that means the light is not on, right? The light is not activated, and that means that something else is selected. So maybe you're on your general setups that we talked about, or maybe you're on categories, which is what we're going to cover next. Okay, but if it's off, it's off. That's the easy part. Okay, if it's on and lit up red. Okay, now some instruments are easier to see on this than others, but it's the same on all of them. If it's on and it's lit up with a red light, that means that your style setup or your rhythm preset is active. And that means what I just showed you, when you go to your numbers 1 through 10, it'll be all of your rhythm presets or style setups. Okay? Now here's the one that tends to throw people for a little bit of a loop. Okay, if I go back to my screen here, if it's on standby, it's going to be lit up orange. Now why would it be lit up orange, you ask? I'm glad you asked. That means that you have not yet selected a music style. It's waiting for you to pick. Okay, so I don't know if you'll be able to see this on my instrument here. Maybe you can. Let me see if I can pull the camera a little bit closer. I'll tell you, this camera does not like me today. Yeah, I need a better co-host. All right, so maybe you can see on the screen here. So my rhythm preset button is right here. So if I turn it off, you can see the light go off. If it's on, now it's on. Okay, if it's orange, can you see the color change there? There it's red, there it's orange, and you want to be looking down here. Okay, red, orange. If you can't see it, it's okay. But when you go to your instrument, in fact, when you first turn the instrument on, what you'll notice is that your rhythm preset or style setup is going to be lit up orange. That means it's technically on, but it's in standby mode because it's waiting for you. Now remember I said in order to use these style setups or rhythm presets, you have to have a style on. Because the whole nature of those group of sounds is that someone has programmed it for that specific style of music, right? When I touch Latin, I get Latin. Well, the instrument doesn't know what sounds to put in there for that style until you select that style. Okay, so if you ever see it and it's lit up orange, and you're like, I can't get my style setups, they're not working, make sure you have a style selected. Okay, it's just as easy as turning it on, and now I have all my style setups there. Okay, and it's the same on an Easy 1 as it is on an Aria. Okay. Does anybody have any questions about style setups? I don't see any hands. Oh, another real quick thing. I actually didn't plan on mentioning this. It's not on my sheet. But if anybody uses Song Setup, okay, Song Setup is going to give me a list of a bunch of different songs, hundreds on this instrument. And let's say I wanted to play something like, oh, I don't know. Let's find a fun one here. We'll do, Days of Wine and Roses. I like that one. There's so many good ones to choose from. Sometimes you have trouble picking a song. I don't know if that ever happens to you guys. Think, man, all of them are so good. Okay, but if I'm playing a song setup and I want to use different melody sounds, the easiest way to do that is just to touch that rhythm preset or style setup button. Okay? Because then you're keeping all of the other stuff that the song setup has done for you. You know, you keep the style. You know, in this case, they turned on alter style for me. Any changes that song setup has made to the instrument, you keep all that stuff. But if you want to use different melody sounds, just touch your rhythm preset or style setup. That's why I always say this particular group is the easiest way to sound really good. You don't have to push a lot of buttons. Okay, so let me play a little bit of that song for you. Beautiful, beautiful tune. In fact, if anybody likes that song, Days of Wine and Roses, and you like jazz, and specifically jazz piano, I'd recommend checking out the Bill Evans version of that song. Beautiful, beautiful song. Anyway, so So that was just a quick little aside there for song setup and using your style setups or rhythm presets to go along with that. Okay, moving along here. The next group of sounds here are your category setups. Okay, so category setups are groups of melody sounds that fit into a specific category. Okay, they can be used with or without a music style. Remember, style setup is the one that has to be used with a style. The other ones, you don't need a music style. So that means you can play just with your easy button if you want to. Okay, and I put in parentheses here for category stuff, category setups, that this is a great option if you want to choose melody sounds that don't necessarily match your style. One of my favorites is picking a Latin music style, but using big band category setups. Okay, so this is something, again, I've heard over the years many times. On this instrument here, your category presets, category setups are right over here, by the way. On most of all of them, they'll be just to the right of your numbers 1 through 10. Okay, so I've heard so many times, okay, well, so if I touch big band over here, meaning a big band music style, then I got to touch big band over here, right? Or if I touch Latin over here, I got to touch Latin over here, right? No, no, no. Wrong. You don't have to. Now you can. Would it make sense? Right? Sure. If you want to use Latin music style with a Latin group of melody sounds, of course that would make sense. Or if you want to use a big band style with big band melody sounds, of course that makes sense. However, in my opinion, you're getting a lot of those sounds from rhythm preset, okay, or style setup. So I like to mix and match here a little bit. So if I go to Latin, maybe I go to big band over here. That's my favorite, because then I get the Latin music style with the big band melody sounds. Or I could do it the other way around. I could choose big band as my band and then Latin for my melody sounds. Okay, and you can get as wacky as you want. I mean, you could put on polka over here and country over here, right? I mean, let's just play a little bit just for fun. I know probably everybody's cringing right now, and I'm not saying I would do that for a concert, okay, but just to illustrate the point that these two don't necessarily have to match. Okay, so get creative with it, If you have, and again, not every instrument has the category presets, but many of them do. If you don't have that option, again, we're going to talk about how you get some of these sounds on your instruments as well. But just know that your music style and your use of category setups are totally independent. So once you pick the style, that's it. Then you're done picking the music style. Then you can pick anything you want over here. Okay? So again, I like to kind of mix and match. Sometimes I think that's fun. It gives you an option to play outside the box a little bit. And then I put by the stars here, if you have an option next to your category setups that says more, and or if you have an option that says next page on the screen, make sure you explore those. That means you have even more melody sounds that you can use. And I'll show you what I mean by that. If I'm on the main panel here, and every instrument's a little bit different, I'll try to hit the main ones here, but on the one I'm on here is similar to the Prestige, the Sterling, the Patriot, the Liberty, Stardust, all those. Excuse me. So you'll have a few options here on the panel, and those are country, big band, show, and Latin. So remember, each one of those is a whole group of sounds. Okay, in this case, it's 22 sounds per button there. 22 country sounds, 22 big band sounds. Okay, but then the last one over here says more. Now that's the important one. If you have one that says more, make sure you touch that. Because now on the screen, kind of scared to move my camera again, but we'll try. There we go. You can see on the screen there, I have another 8 groups. Now, whenever you see a button on your instrument that says more, it doesn't just have to be for categories. It could be for your melody sounds, it could be for your harmonies, it could be for anything. If it says more, that means that they ran out of room on the instrument panel to put more buttons. They can only fit so many buttons on the panel before they run out of room. So that means that when you touch more, you get all these additional options in your screen. And it doesn't have to be a big window. It could be something like a fanfare or a journey. Okay, or even on an easy one, you have that button that says more for your melody sounds, and then you scroll in the window. Okay, so I have stuff like sacred, bells, jazz, nostalgic, modern, holidays, brass, and lush. And each one of those is like having an additional white button that I showed you on the panel. Each one represents 22 additional sounds. And let's see, I wanted to pick one to demo for you here. I did nostalgic the other day. I think I'm going to try the lush category today. Look at these big sounds here. Open blend organ, lush strings, lush choir, lush orchestra with the choir, number 5. That's one of my all-time favorites. Lush reeds and brass. And what that means is that each one of these sounds comes on with a huge harmony, big, full, lush sounds. So let me put my camera back down here a little bit. You can see here. And I'll take you on a mini tour of our lush category, just with the easy button. Now listen to these big sounds. So how cool. Beautiful, beautiful sound. So whatever you have for those categories, make sure you go to more if you have that option. Looks like we got a question from Barbara. Barbara, how you doing?
Hi, Brian. You might mention how you find out what's in those categories, what button you push to put on your screen the instruments that are in the category.
Sure, that's a great question. So in case you couldn't hear, what Barbara said is that there's a button that you can push if you have a big window instrument that will pull up all of those sounds that I showed you there on the screen. On the Legend here, and it's going to be the same, I believe, on the Inspire and on the Rialto, if anybody has those instruments, you're going to touch your Custom 3 button. Okay, so all the way on the lower keyboard, if you go all the way to the left and then keep going past the keyboard, you have these custom buttons right over here. So if you touch number 3, that will show you on the window. On many of the other instruments, it's going to be number 4. Custom number 4 is going to be the button that you touch to get those, and it's what they call active preset display. Okay, good point there. We got a question from Judith. Judith, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great.
You mentioned a few minutes ago that you did a session on the journey, and that's what I have, and somehow I missed it. Where can I watch that? I've looked on YouTube and I don't see it there.
I think it was just uploaded about 3 hours ago.
Oh, to YouTube?
Yeah, to our YouTube channel.
Okay.
And as long as we're mentioning that, I will give a quick plug for our YouTube channel here. If you go to, and maybe Sean, if you could type out the link there, our YouTube channel is at youtube.com, and that's YOUTUBE, youtube.com youtube.com/Fletcher Music Centers. Centers with an S. Okay. All of our classes, concerts, variety workshops, anything is uploaded by Robert, and he spends a lot of time making sure that all this content is available for everybody. So, and I also will admit, I check once in a while to see if we have, see how many subscribers we have, because, the more subscribers you have, the more the better it does for us. Basically, it's easier to get your content out there. There are certain perks that you can have after you get a certain number of subscribers. Right now we're at 393. So if you have not gone yet and subscribed to our channel, it's totally free. Obviously, all the lessons are free, and you can watch them without subscribing. But just know that it helps us. It only takes just a couple of seconds. If you go to that link that Sean typed in the chat there, youtube.com/Fletcher Music Centers, you'll be able to see a button, a little red button that says subscribe. And if you do that, just know that you're doing us a huge help. It helps us get our content out there, and gets us exposed to some more people and gives us some perks that we wouldn't have otherwise. So that's my quick plug for the YouTube channel. Either way, you definitely want to get there to watch some of the videos. Like I said, the concerts are on there, the classes, everything. All right, got another question from Winnie. Winnie, how you doing? Go ahead and click unmute there. Oh, there you go.
Yes, I have a Stardust
Uh-huh.
Gold, and I don't think my screen shows the lower keyboard instrument, correct?
That is correct. I believe that the Stardust only shows the upper keyboard, and it will only be on the category sounds. It doesn't show the rhythm presets.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. All right. I'm going to get along to my next part here because I want to make sure I touch on this before I go back to some of the other stuff. Now, again, I will come back after I talk about bank setups. I will talk about some of the other instruments, too, and how you can access these if you don't have these particular features. So, bank setups from the factory, I wrote them on there, are bank, and again, you might only have bank A, B, C on your instrument, or you might have up to D, or you might have up to E. On the Legend here, I have up to D. On the top of the line models, you will have all the way up to E. So bank A is going to be Lowrey organ sounds. Bank B is going to be jazz organ. Now, if we have any fans of the Hammond organ, that's really what it is. It's meant to replicate that Hammond sound, but obviously we can't call it Hammond organ. But I'm a huge fan of those sounds. So if you like jazz organ, bank B, that's the way to go. Bank C is going to be your classical organ sounds. Bank D is going to be your orchestral sounds. And bank E is your novelty sounds. Okay, these can be used with or without a style, just like your categories or your general setups. And I did put these banks can also be changed if you save your own setups, but there's nowhere near enough time to cover that today. So I will delay any questions about saving your own setups to the banks for another time. But I wanted to show you just a couple of the sounds. So if you're a fan of actual organ music, right? I know we all play the organ, but a lot of people maybe don't know that there are many organ sounds, and this is true on the easy instruments right on up through the line. Here they happen to be grouped into banks, which makes it convenient. So I'm going to show you bank A, B, C, and D. Here is bank A, Lowrey organ sound. All right, my personal favorite, bank B, the jazz organ or the Hammond organ. right. You can tell I'm a fan of that one. I like the jazz organ. Next one's really pretty though too. This is the Bank C. This is for your classical organ. You know, a lot of like Phantom. If you play the main theme from Phantom, this is a really nice one. Or if you happen to like any classical music or church music like that, this is a really great bank for that stuff. Okay, so that's fun too. And then Bank D is your orchestral sounds. So I'm not going to go through all these, but if you picture a 101-piece orchestra on the stage, you got your French horns, violins, cellos, pizzicato strings. Those are the fun ones. Plucked strings, pizzicato. All the way up to your big finale. Okay, so those are your banks, and again, Bank E is novelty sounds. I don't have that on the legend here, but that's you get like the buzzing bees and the I think you get the cows and chickens, and you know it's just some fun stuff.
The silly stuff, yeah.
The silly stuff. That's right. So before I recap the stuff today, I did want to mention on the easy instruments, or if you have like any one keyboard or a smaller instrument and you're thinking, I don't have categories, I don't have some of the stuff that I talked about today, what one of the main things in grouping these things together like this is that it just makes it easier to access the sounds. Of course, you get more sounds of any kind the larger the instrument. You know, you get more styles and more sounds and more of everything, basically. But on any instrument, you have the ability to change your sound. So if you're on an easy one, you still have that button more that I mentioned. Okay, you still have a couple of pianos to choose from, a couple of string sections to choose from. As you go up to like the 2 or the 4, then you're getting even more. You get even more stuff to pick from. So if you're trying to switch your sounds, what I would figure out first is if I played something today, like jazz organ, for example. That's on all of the instruments, or most all of them, starting with the easy series anyway. And when you have that, you just have to know how to find it. Okay, it's not necessarily going to be in Bank B if you don't have Bank B, but that doesn't mean you don't have the jazz organ. You might just have to do a little bit more homework, you know, to find it. Okay, but it's going to be, that specific one would be in your organ button on the right side of the instrument. Okay, so, and that's going to be true with any of the sounds. Remember, today we're talking about melody sounds. How do you get these different melody sounds? And if you're on an instrument that, let's say, doesn't have the categories or doesn't have the banks, chances are you're going to have some of those sounds. You probably won't have every single one, but you'll have some of those or something similar. It's just going to be on the right side of your instrument, and then you're going to have to hunt around for which button it's under. Is it under woodwinds? Is it under organ? Is it under more? Right? That's my favorite one. I love the more button because you know, you can find tons. I mean, even on the easy series, you have dozens of sounds, and just in that more button. Okay, so when you're playing an arrangement, you're playing a tune at home. It might not be quite as convenient because you won't be able to hit. Okay, well, I like big band 10 or I like big band 9 or whatever. You might have to push a few more buttons, but that's how you access your melody sounds on those instruments. Okay, so if you don't have categories, if you don't have banks, you're just going to have to go over to the right side of your instrument, and you're going to see buttons that say like pianos, guitars, strings, woodwinds. Some will say brass, more. And then it's just a matter of finding which sound you're looking for. Okay. Yes, Inez, you got a question?
This was very informative. This was very informative because on my organ, all the bank, rhythm, general category, they all called presets.
Mhm.
So now I understand the difference between category presets, general presets, rhythm presets.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
thank you.
You're welcome. Well, I'm glad that was helpful because that's the
Yeah.
goal. You know, we want to make sure that you do know the difference between those, and sometimes even when you do know the difference, it never hurts to have a refresher.
Yeah. Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions? Anything we talked about? General presets. What order did I go in? So general, style setup or rhythm preset, category, or your bank setups. All right. See Marlis. Marlis, how are you?
Mute. Now, can you hear me?
I sure can. Hello.
You set up a song on your setup and you play clear through the song, clear through the ending, and it is off. Do you have to go back and start all the way through to the alphabet to find your song setup and all that?
So if you use song setup, then no. So like, let's see if I go back. Oops, there we go. If I go back to my screen here, and actually from right here. Oops, sorry. From right here, you may actually be able to see it on. There we go. There's the window. So if I use my song setup, remember I did Days of Wine and Roses? So I just, it's a little bit glary there, but I just touched it again. Hopefully you can see right about there is Days of Wine and Roses. So when I just touch song setup, it's going to be right there again. Okay, you can also use your keypad. So if I go to keypad and then the alphabet, and then let's say I wanted to go back to, I don't know, Stars and Stripes, right? Touch S, song setup, and then I just scroll, and then there's Stars and Stripes there, up, right about there. Alrighty, so hopefully that answered your question there, Marlis. That's a good one. Anybody else have any questions today? Alrighty, well I don't see any other hands, so hopefully, oh, we got one more. Judith. Hello again, Judith.
Hello, if I'm using song setup and I want to try different sounds with that, how do I get to the different sounds?
So there are a couple ways. I think hopefully I mentioned, if I didn't, I meant to, but hopefully I did. The easiest way is to touch style setup or rhythm preset, because that's just a one button push after you select song setup, for example. Let's say, so I'm on Stars and Stripes Forever. They're going to give me two sounds right out of the gate, right? So I have sounds like horns and, ooh, that's like a high-low. I like that. But let's say I didn't like those sounds. I wanted to use something else. Easiest way is just to touch rhythm preset or style setup, because when I touch that, I retain everything else that they set up for me except the melody sounds. And now any of my numbers 1 through 10 plus 0 are all going to be marching band sounds. So that's the easiest way. You can also go into your categories or to your banks, but that's, to me, that's the easiest way. Just touch one button, style setup or rhythm preset. And I got another question. Looks like, is it Jean or Jeannie? May have to click unmute there. Oh, I can't hear Jean or Jeannie. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing.
Okay,
there you go.
now can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
I don't understand the bank setups. Do you have to put a rhythm in there? Do you just have your easy button to set that up? I have all of them, but I just never know how to do it.
Could be either one. You could use it with or without a style. It's basically the same idea as the category or the general setups, but they're just different groups of sounds. So you have like three category, or sorry, not categories. You have 3 banks of organs. One bank is the orchestral, and then one bank is the novelty. But they're almost like additional categories, if that makes sense.
Okay, so if I'm playing something using a rhythm setup, does it take, do I have to change it to a bank setup to
Nope.
continue? No?
Nope. And in fact, that's a good point. You can only be on one of these at a time. So if I didn't mention that, that's something that I should probably say is you can't be on rhythm preset or style setup and category at the same time. You can only be on one or the other. And unless
Okay.
you're somebody who's taken the time to custom program all of your sounds, you know, I know some of our
No,
students.
no.
Well, some people do, though. I mean, I'm just speaking to you know, to everybody.
Yeah.
You know, if you're one of those people who really likes to go in and you touch all these buttons over here, then then you're on your own custom sound. But if you're like most of us who just sit down and play, you can only be on one of those four things at any given time.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Great question. Anybody else have any questions before we do announcements today? Oh, we got another Jean or Jeannie. Jeannie Marie, it looks like. Are you there? There she is.
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
I just want a clarification. I'm on an easy 4.
Uh-huh.
So let's say you said something to the effect that okay, if I have my song set up, let's say I have a song in my free songs, should be coming around the mountain, okay? And I like the 2 sounds that are on my upper and lower keyboard, but if I change a sound, and maybe I want to put it to organ or something, will the rhythm stay the same as my she'll be coming around the mountain setup?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, that's a great question. Yeah, so in case anybody didn't hear, if you're on a song setup and you change it, you change your melody sounds, even if you use the original 2 for part of the song, even if you use the original 2 for part of the song, you can change it in the middle. So let's say you're going to play "She'll Be Coming Around the Mountain" 2 times through. You use the original 2 sounds from song setup for the first 2 times, or sorry, for the first time through, and then you change it. That you'll still get everything. You'll still keep the rhythm, the tempo. Everything else will stay the same, except for the melody sound when you change it. All right, another great question. Anybody else have any questions today? Alrighty, so I have just a couple of very quick announcements for everybody. Let me pop my other camera back on here. So obviously you know about our variety class because you just took it this week. But our other announcement is our Friday class. I told you we have an extra special concert artist this week. So we've featured a number of people. Jason's gotten to play one. Joe Fontesha's played one. I've gotten to play one. We're going to bring back somebody who is probably the most influential person and most important when it comes to all the stuff that we've done in the last few months and beyond, but especially these last few months, putting all of this online stuff together. So in addition to all of his other roles in the company, which include National Sales Manager, Vice President, Zoom Guru, all this other stuff, he's been doing such a good job making sure that we are staying online and staying active on Zoom with all of our different stuff. Okay, and so you may know who I'm talking about at this point. It's the one and only Robert Roman. So in addition to all this stuff that he does, he's also able to play really, really well. If you haven't seen him actually play, you're missing out. And if you have, you know what I'm talking about. He's just zany, he's energetic, he's a great player, and his arrangements are really, really good. So I would encourage everybody to make sure that you're on. That's going to be the regular time this Friday, which is, 2 days from now, the 10th at 2 o'clock. And just keep your eyes out for those emails, and he'll send out an invite to you.
And then 11 o'clock Arizona time.
Sorry, I always forget to say Arizona time.
And he told me, too, he's gonna go nuts on this concert.
Oh, good.
Got some great ideas. He's going to have a lot of fun with this one.
Yep, so that's 2 o'clock Florida time, 11 o'clock Arizona time. Sorry, Arizona folks. I always forget to mention the Arizona time. But that's going to be a lot of fun. And, we have so much fun putting these on. Maybe some of you guys saw us last week do the 4th of July celebration, and it's been a very different experience being on Zoom like this, doing all of our stuff. But we've been really having a blast, and we hope that you guys are too. So I'll unmute everybody in case you'd like to say anything at the end here. But that's all I got for today.
I have one more. You know who's
Oh,
going to be
Sean's got an announcement too.
class? Next week, you're stuck with me.
Oh, yay.
You'll like, please. You'll like.
Sean's teaching next week.
I like him because
Okay.
he teaches on the Inspire.
Great job, Brian.
You look great.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Brian.
Great job.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you. Everything was great.
Thanks for joining us,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thank you, thank you.
Always very helpful.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Brian.
Good luck, you. Get haircuts.
Thanks, Brian.